If you've ever built a product or even just had a great idea for one, you've probably lost a little sleep over one big question. Did I actually make something that matters to people? Well, today we're going to break down a really simple metric that gets right to the heart of that question. It's called the 40% test. But before we get into any numbers or formulas, let's just start with a gut check. I want you to really think about this for a second. If your product, your service, whatever it is, if it just vanished tomorrow, poof, would anyone genuinely miss it? I mean, would it leave a real hole in their day? It's a raw, kind of scary question, but honestly, the answer is everything. See, every product out there really lives in one of two worlds. Over here on the left, you've got your nice-to-haves. These are the apps you use. Sometimes maybe they're cool, but they're easily replaced. But over on the right, that's the goal. That's the can't-live-without product. It's totally woven into your user's life. The real challenge, though, is figuring out which one you've actually built. And the good news is, you don't have to guess. You don't have to just hope you're a can't-live-without. There's actually a super straightforward way to measure that loyalty, to put a real number on how attached people are to what you've made. So what we're really measuring here is something called product market fit, or PMF for short. And look, forget all the complicated jargon-filled definitions. At its core, PMF is just the emotional bond between your customer and your product. It's not about how many features you have. It's about dependency. It's about how much they need you. So how in the world do you measure an emotion? Well, you do it with something called the disappointment survey. And the power of this thing is its beautiful simplicity. You don't need some massive 50-question survey. Nope. You just need one perfectly worded question to get right to the truth. And this is it. This is the whole shebang. How would you feel if you could no longer use this product? It's so elegant, right? Because it doesn't ask about features. It doesn't ask about price. It asks about loss. It makes your product feel like something that could be taken away, and that forces a real, honest, emotional reaction. And the possible answers are just as simple. Your user gets 3 choices: very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, or not disappointed. That's it. There's no room for maybes or kindas. These 3 buckets are going to give you all the data you need. It's that clean. Okay, now for the really cool part. We've collected these feelings, right? These gut reactions from our users. So how do we turn all that emotion into a single hard metric, something we can actually track and work on improving? The whole process couldn't be easier. It's just 3 steps. First, you ask that one golden question. Second, you tally up the responses into those 3 buckets. And third, you do one little bit of math to get your score. Now take a look at the formula. You're going to notice something really important. We only focus on one group, the people who said they would be very disappointed. Why? Because these are your true fans. These are your champions. The somewhat disappointed folks are great, but the very disappointed group, that's the proof that you've built something truly essential. So, you've run the survey, you've done the math, and now you have a percentage. But what does that number even mean? Is 20% good? Is 50% amazing? You need a benchmark. And it turns out there is a kind of magic number, a threshold that's been proven again and again to be the signal for a strong, healthy product. That number is 40%. If 40% or more of your users say they would be very disappointed if your product just disappeared, you've done it. You've hit it. You've crossed that invisible line from being a nice to have to a can't live without for a really solid chunk of your audience. Let's put that number into context, though. If your score is under 25%, you've probably got weak product market fit. Your product just isn't essential yet. If you're between 25 and 39%, you're in what we call the emerging zone. You've got something good, something promising, but it definitely needs some work. But once you hit that 40% mark or you go higher, you're in the strong zone. And this isn't just a number that feels good. This is where companies see massive changes. Organic growth starts to kick in, people stick around longer, and your business starts to pull people in instead of you having to constantly push it on them. So really, this just reframes our first emotional question into a concrete, data-driven goal. This becomes your new North Star. This is the question you should be obsessed with. But listen, getting the score is not the finish line, not even close. In fact, it's the starting pistol. The number itself is just a signal. The real gold is in what you decide to do with that information next. So what do? First things first, you have to dig into the why. You need to follow up with that very disappointed group and find out exactly what it is they can't live without. Is it a specific feature? Is it the community? Then you use that feedback to double down on what's already working and figure out how to make your product even more essential for everyone else. It's all about strengthening that attachment. And that brings us right back to where we started, with a question. But now, it's more of a challenge, right? Because the answer you get might not be the one you want to hear. It might be humbling. It might even be a little painful. But I promise you, it will also be the single most valuable piece of feedback you will ever get. So the only question left is, are you brave enough to ask it?